In other news today, Australia's lowest paid workers will receive a pay rise of 3%. The Fair Work Commission has increased the minimum wage to $740 a week, but there's been mixed reaction to the decision. Patrick Murrell was at the Fair Work Commission.
Strong economic conditions have laid the foundation for this 3% increase to the minimum wage, the Fair Work Commission declaring this was an opportunity to raise relative living standards, particularly for workers existing below the poverty line. The rise is lower than last year's 3.5% increase. That's because the economic outlook isn't as firm. No adverse inflationary outcomes are forecast as a result of this, despite claims to the contrary.
The current economic circumstances provide a further opportunity to improve the relative living standards of the low paid and to enable them to better meet their needs by awarding a real increase in the national minimum wage and modern award minimum wages.
The new minimum wage is $740.80 a week, or $19.49 an hour. That's roughly $1,000 extra a year for full-timers. Workers have welcomed the decision, but some would have preferred more.
I mean, I think probably the most of it is going to go to the rent increase that I had a couple of months ago. Like, I don't think, when you look at the difference, that there's going to be much left over for that. So I'm not seeing it so much as extra. It's just sort of catching up to the costs that have increased over the last 12 months.
Today's rise is good, but it is not good enough. By the time you pay your rent, pay your food, pay your petrol, pay your electricity and gas, it only gives us still a minimum wage in our pay packet.
Paying my bills, and I want to start a family.
Despite being above inflation and above median wage increases, it's not quite the 6% unions were pushing for. The Australian Council of Trade Unions will continue lobbying for a living wage, which they say should be 60% of the median Australian wage.
We should also acknowledge today that the Fair Work Commission's decision acknowledges the fact that many workers who receive the minimum wage will remain in poverty, and this is unacceptable in a country like Australia.
Conversely, the change is higher than what many business groups were pushing for, some complaining they will now have to shoulder costs they can barely afford.
This decision actually equates to around about an extra $3.1 billion that will have to be found by employers across Australia to actually fund these wages.
The changes will come into effect from July, coinciding with the latest round of cuts to penalty rates.